Shalom and welcome back. My name is Jack Nakashima. In the last lesson, we were studying about the first beast, who is the Antichrist. In today's lesson, we will discuss the second beast, who is the false prophet. This will cover Revelation 13, verses 11 through 18. Let's jump right in. And I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. Earlier we mentioned that the earth represents the land of Israel, and the sea represents the Gentile nations. This second beast comes up out of the earth. That tells us that he will be a Jewish man. The first beast came up out of the sea, and so we know that the Antichrist will be a Gentile. But the second beast, the false prophet, he will be Jewish. Notice that he has two horns like a lamb. That he is described as a lamb shows us that he will have the appearance of a peaceful religious figure. The horns are a bit more difficult to interpret. We were told that the Antichrist had horns, but his horns were also described as having royal crowns. This second beast, his horns are not given further description. We don't know if they have crowns, so we don't know if they represent men or kings. Now, horns always symbolize power when they're used symbolically in the Bible. And so it's likely here that this simply means that he has twice the power of anyone else. Now, this does not mean that it's exactly a doubling of power, but that nobody can overpower him, that he is too great. Now, he also speaks like a dragon, and that's a clear reference to the devil. And so the false prophet will be the devil's spokesman. Now notice what the second beast does in verses 12 and 13. And he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence. And he makes the earth and those who dwell there to worship the first beast, whose fatal wound was healed. And he does great signs, so that he even makes fire come down out of heaven to the earth in the presence of men. He makes the whole earth worship the first beast. It is reiterated here that the first beast was fatally wounded and revived. As a result, many people will worship him as God. But the second beast also leads the people to worship the Antichrist. This is another example of how the false prophet and the Antichrist and Satan are a false trinity. We mentioned in the last lesson that Satan will mimic God the Father. The Antichrist will mimic the Messiah, and as shown here, he dies and is resurrected just like the Messiah really did. And the false prophet will mimic the Holy Spirit. Now the Holy Spirit points people to worship Jesus, the Son of God. The false prophet will point people to worship the Antichrist, the son of perdition. So it's a similar type of role. Now the second beast will exercise all the authority of the first beast, so the world will listen to him as if they're listening to the Antichrist himself. And he will do great signs, bringing down fire from heaven to earth. Again, that's something we would connect with God doing, such as when Elijah's sacrifice was devoured by fire from heaven. Now, when Jesus and the apostles were on earth, they often did miracles to authenticate their ministries. Likewise, the beasts both will exercise miraculous power to lend credence to their authority and worthiness. And we should also take that as a warning today that miracles do not necessarily mean that God is behind it. Now, verse 14 bears this out. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the signs which he was given to do in the presence of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was slaughtered by the sword and lived. So these wonders presented by the false prophet will allow him to deceive people, and they will do what he says. So they will create an image of the Antichrist, and by image John is referring to an idol that has the Antichrist's image on it. But this is no ordinary idol. Verse 15 says, and he was granted to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast could even speak. And he made it that whoever did not worship the image of the beast should be killed. This image will live. It will be able to speak and breathe. What this will be like is left to our imaginations, and many imaginations have run wild. It's really too open-ended of a description here for us to have a solid understanding of what to expect. Some say it's a hologram, others say it's a giant statue, or just a life-size statue, or an android, or maybe a clone of the Antichrist. We really don't know. But at the time that it happens, it will be obvious. The penalty for not worshiping that image is death. So it will be a very serious thing. Everybody will know what they need to do. We now look at one of the most famous parts of Revelation, and that is the mark of the beast. Let's begin with just verses 16 and 17. And he causes everyone, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free and the bondservant, to be given a mark on the right hand or on their forehead, so that no one can buy or sell except by having the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of his name. The false prophet causes the whole world to proclaim allegiance to the Antichrist. Each person will take a special mark. This mark will either be on their right hand or on their forehead. And without the mark, you cannot buy or sell anything. So it's important to see here that not only is this a mark of allegiance to the Antichrist, but that the Antichrist will take over the world's economy. When the Antichrist receives worship, that's him taking control over religion. When he rules over the regional kings, that's him taking control over the government, and with the government comes control over the military. So the Antichrist has a threefold focus: the government, religion, and the economy. At the beginning of the tribulation, the Antichrist will be pushing for a one world government, a one world religion, and a one world economy. But in the middle of the tribulation, he will try to bring all those things under himself. It will be the government of the Antichrist, with regional kings submitting to him or being deposed. It will be the religion of the Antichrist, with himself as God. And now it will be the economy of the Antichrist. No commerce, no transactions without his mark. Everything starts off with a global emphasis, with the Antichrist leading the world into this new world order, but then it will shift into an Antichrist-centered world. Now, the mark of the beast can be the name of the beast or the number of his name. And verse 18 goes into more detail about the number. This is where wisdom is necessary. Let the one who has a perceptive mind calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. In both Greek and Hebrew, numbers are represented by letters. In other words, each letter has a numerical value assigned to it. And so a person's name has a numerical value, just by adding up the value of the letters in their name. For instance, in the Bible, Matthew 1:17, Matthew uses the number 14 and connects it to David to help underscore that Jesus is King Messiah, the son of David, the Davidic king. But he does this because the numerical value of David, the name David, is 14. In Hebrew, David, is only spelled with 3 letters, Dalet, Vav, Dalet. And the letter values are 4, 6, and 4. So by adding 4 plus 6 plus 4, you end up with a total of 14. Thus, the value of the name David is 14. What this means then is that the name of the Antichrist, when given numerical value, should equal 666. And it should be pointed out that this is clearly 660 and 6 and not 666, which would be the letters Vav, 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 or 6 plus 6 plus 6, equaling just a total of 18. Now, you are probably aware that many people have tried attempts to fit different leaders' names into 666, and their attempts have raised many issues. And so when we look at this, we want to ask ourselves, how do you spell their names? Unless their names are naturally originally in Greek or Hebrew. It needs to be translated, and there can be variations of spelling, which would alter the value of the names. And then different people have different numbers of names. If they have a first name, middle name, and last name, do you use all three names? Do you use just one? Do you use first and last only? And some people have fewer or more than three names. So there's a little bit of confusion for us right now. When the Antichrist finally shows up, it will, of course, be understandable. And those who have the Spirit of God will be able to discern that, yes, this is the number of his name. He is the Antichrist. All right, let's recap. The world, already in our day, the world is moving towards a single global government, a single global religion, and a single global economy. That global government will restructure at some point into 10 regions with a different king over each region, probably because it's just too hard to maintain a single government that controls the whole world. But then the Antichrist will quickly rise to power. 7 of those regional kings will submit to him, 3 will not, and they will be removed. The Antichrist will imitate Messiah Jesus. He will die and he will resurrect, and he will call upon people to worship him as if he were God. He will move the one world religion into a religion of himself. And his power will come from his father, Satan, who mimics God the Father. And the false prophet will lead people to worship the Antichrist, just as the Holy Spirit leads people to worship Jesus. An image of the Antichrist will be set up for worship, and it will breathe and it will speak, and anyone who does not worship this image will be put to death. Then the false prophet will cause the world to take the mark of the beast, to show allegiance to him. And without this mark, no one will be able to buy or sell anything. Thus the global economy will become the Antichrist economy. Anybody who does not submit to the new world order of the beast will be punished with death. Therefore, the Antichrist will wage war against the saints who bear allegiance to God, to his foe. All right, that's it for now. I hope this made sense, and we will see you next time in chapter 14. God bless.